Right. So we're at the end of the Sefer here. Kuf Pei, I think 333 in English. If we're closing the gates for Yom Kippur, I'm going to see a Ramban. He wants us to see a Ramban here. So there's a Ramban that he's going to quote. Oh, so he did that. Yeah, so skip 340.
340.
Neila Sha'arim, at the Neila Sha'arim.
Right, because I didn't have my safer from school. Sorry.
As the gates are closing, Yeduim Divrei Ramban. We know the words of the Ramban. And this is page 340 in English. The Igeres, and this is the Ramban in his Igeret. Now, the Ramban wrote a famous Igeret. It was a famous letter, actually. If you go to the Ramban synagogue, you'll see they have a big stone in the wall with the Holy Igeret written on it. That's where you have the word Shema B'ni Musar Avicha V'al Shtar Simecha quoted in there, and that's like the beginning of his Igeret, his letter. Kasher takum min hasefer techapes v'asher lamarata im yesh bo davar asher tuchal l'kaim. When you takum min hasefer, when you get up from the book that you've studied, you should investigate that which you've studied. Is there something that you can now bring into life? Because again, the Rambam also paskins that Talmud Torah is only great if it brings you to action. And if it's not bringing you to action, then ultimately it didn't meet its purpose. So whenever you finish anything in this world, you should always say afterwards, what can I learn from it? A Rebbe of mine once said that sometimes when you spend time, like recreational time, you feel like, oh, you've wasted time. Not to justify always, but you should always look back afterwards and say, okay, what did I get from that experience? Like how has that changed my life for the better? What positive messages are from there? If you do that for even recreational activities, of course you should do it when you study Torah, when you daven. You should walk out of a mincha and say, wow, okay, now how am I changed from that experience? So also when you finish a sefer, you should do it. All the commentaries that he had in this machberet, in this kuntras, Zeh al Lashonot Hatfila. That was an expression based on the Medrash that lists off the different expressions that we have, different words that are used in the Tanakh for tefillah, for prayer. Lo baror shem dvarim hashavim l'chol nefesh. It's not clear that they are things that everybody can relate to equally. Shebikaram heim ma shahaya nira lefi anios dati. They are that which was visible to my anios dati, to my understanding of things. I am writing them to explain the languages, the expressions of tefillah. He's basically saying that this whole thing was a big chiddush, right? He's not saying that it was like it was an ancient idea from the Rishonim. Most of what I said was just my own feelings, right? It wasn't necessarily a steadfast tradition. You have to believe everything I'm saying exactly as it is, right? This was an outpouring of my heart, and everyone's heart is different, and everybody's emotional take and understanding of these concepts is different, and therefore you can take it as that, with a grain of salt. He's saying I don't have to exactly every word I say here is not Torah Messinai. It's one approach. It's one man's approach to these ideas in tefillah. When you read Kari Naim, my beautiful readers, right? Shigata ad halom, that you got up to this place, the end. What can we derive from this small book? To sit and to work hard, to think and to investigate books that we study. And the idea that we've now expressed 10 languages of tefillah, to understand practical ramifications of each one of them. And everyone has to do that on their own also. It's not just up to me to spoon feed what I think he's saying you ought to think about in tefillah, but now you need to take these expressions and derive a little bit what it is for you. What's the difference between a shout and a guttural cry, and ma bein shnehem lebitzur? What's the difference between that and a bitzur? V'chein kol lashon lashon. Every expression that was used take a moment to think about it. And to then bring it to God. Without a doubt. This is a wondrous segula. A segula is like a usually we think of segulas as things you do, like almost like charms, right? Like I have my daughter was looking for her she has these retainers, clear retainers, Visalign, and she tends to lose them because every 2 weeks they're replaced. So she's like, I want to say the bracha. I'm like, first of all, it's not a bracha. Second of all, it's a segula. And I think you should give some tzedakah and daven. So then she did that. She said, okay, can I say the line? So I gave her the line, I'm a binyamin, a kolbachet sumin, right? I gave her the whole line. But
Did it work?
I don't know. She'll see.
That's what we want to know.
But it typically works, but that's just because you're looking for something. So who knows if it really works? I know that if you're really, the point is it's supposed to remind you that if you're blind and you can't find something, Hashem has to open up your eyes. That's all it is. So if it's a reminder of that, maybe it works. I don't know. Oh, well, again, so what's a segula? Segula is some sort of merit, some sort of thing that we do that should be a zechut, a merit to achieve other things, to accomplish, to realize other yeshuot in your life. And he says that when we think about this, right? There's nothing that will impact you're in your tefillah more so than this. When something terrible happens, we all periodically, once, twice a year, we go through something difficult, and sometimes once every few years, something terrible, right, happens. And that's just part of the cyclical nature of life. And you're in those zones. I always say from a psychological standpoint, you want to kind of like zone in and say, okay, this is one of those moments. Take a deep breath. Okay, this is one of those moments in life. I know that it will feel better later. I know that I'm going to get out of this, but there's a machshava when those things happen. Oh, eza inyan shetzarich me'od lispal, or something that you really have to daven for. Harei shlomei emune Yisrael shofchim tefillah tchina l'borei olam. The people who are filled with faith, what do? They pour out their hearts to Hashem in those moments. Mishtamish tefillah so v'shlal gavani hatefillah kulam. With a full spectrum of all sorts of tefillos, echad leechad, kilum b'shah shelis bodedus b'tefillah, like when you're focused on your prayer, lifnei Hashem, in front of God. Oh, b'shas amiras tehillim, or when you're reciting tehillim. Yarshom lefanav halashonos. So at that moment, you should imprint before you all those language, all those expressions, and have a picture in your mind of all those different types of ideas we spoke about, of song, of crying out, of desperation, of the ani, all those different modalities, right? Of the silent prayer, the one that has no words, right? The one that relies upon Hashem is the rofei, is the expert. So all those different expressions, yishpach milato l'fnei, and then when you understand that He plays those many roles in our life, then you can spill your words before Hashem, each one separate. Because there's like 5 different prayers you'll then say. If you're joyous, if you're desperate, if you lack the words, right? So each of those expressions would now necessitate a different tefillah about the very same thing. Right? There are 1,000,001 ways in which I can ask for a shidduch for my child, right? I could do it out of a place of please, she's desperate. What do I do? I can ask for I can do it out of a sense of I could do it out of a sense of desperation. I could do it out of a sense of joy, right? I'd say this is like a great moment, and I could do it out of a sense of tachanunim, right? Shavot, tzaka. We'll talk about these in a moment. But when you can formulate your needs in putting many different hats on God's head, Hashem plays many different roles in our lives. Then b'chol achat b'chat mehen b'nifrad v'yaktish l'chol achat mehen regaim mispar. You dedicate special moments to each different type of conversation you want to have with Hashem about it. I mean, the best example I can come up with is these aren't not mutually exclusive. If you were trying to argue a point with a friend of yours or a family member, you would think about all the reasons, and then you would one by one you'd list them up. First of all, this. Second of all, this. Right? It's the same thing with doing with Hashem. Is we're talking to Hashem from different modes of prayer. They're all ways to have a conversation. Tzarich mashal. parable. Nichtav be'ofen shekasadnu anu b'socha kuntres. Let's give an example of something we tell within this book. Kach yivur kol chad latzmo. I'm going to show how each of these modes can be a different expression. We're going to go according to the order of each of the items we learned, and we'll show how it works. So, rega shel bitzur. How do you translate bitzur again?
And then he continues after. A moment of bitzur, pleading to Hashem.
A pleading. Yeah. So, what is bitzur? It's pleading to Hashem. Bakasha mitoch hagashat tzara, ve'avana, behira adkama shatzara hi amitit. So what am I going to do? I'm going to make a request from a place of feeling the pain that I'm going through, understanding with clarity to what extent is this tzara a reality in my life? Is it apply me? And how does it affect my chayav nitzchiim, my permanent life? In other words, is this a moment in time? Is this like a cut and it's going to heal? Or is this something that's sort of enduring? So for the first part, the bitzur, I'm reflecting on the enduring nature of what it is I'm confronting, right? What is the timeline here? Is this a one, like I'm taking one test and I have to pass my driver's test and I got to get through it, but it's not going to impact the rest of my life? Or is this a permanent record kind of thing? Is this something that, how fundamental is what I'm facing? That's a bitzur sort of machshava. Rega shel shava, and shava, actually, he's adding chidushim here that he didn't do in the sefer. Shava is a bakasha histarit. It's hysterical, right? Hysterical crying inside my heart, right? That's the panic. Rega shel tzaka, take a moment of shouting. Yeser omek, greater depth. Argashas alev, feeling in your heart. She'ein milim lefarish b'sfasav. I don't have the words to say with my lips. Otzemet bakasha so, to express my request. I'm just crying. So the Rav spoke about this in a famous article that he wrote on Yetzias Mitzrayim, Tefila, and Talmud Torah, and he said that the heightened level of expression of words is Talmud Torah, and that the lowest level, the animalistic level, is the inability to even express with a cry. So the moment we begin Yetzias Mitzrayim, what do? We cry, right? We don't even articulate our needs; we just cry. So the difference between an animal and human is an animal doesn't say anything when they're in pain. The moment you begin to cry, that's almost like human-esque, right? A whimper, something. And then we say we have needs. So once you have needs, you're a human, says the Rav. They do a little bit. No, they don't whimper? They don't whimper?
Dogs do.
No, are you questioning or are you saying? No. But he's saying a whimper, and then it has to become more of an articulate statement, like I have a need, like ow, this hurts me. So it becomes more refined. So human and animal, the difference is it becomes a more refined need-based cry. And then once that's refined into the form of words, that's what the Anshe Knesset Gedola did, is they put it into a siddur. So then it becomes a more articulate version. And once you move it from words assembled to like fine poetry, that's piyut. Whereas like the rabbis and the early Rishonim and beforehand worked on those for many, many years. And those like fine language and rhymes, and it's borrowing Tanakh. I mean, it really is a masterpiece of words. And then you go from piyut, and then the highest form of expression of words is Talmud Torah, says the Rav. So once a person is on that level through Tefillah and Torah, then ultimately it's the best expression of needs. And it's best expression of anything you're trying to bring out. But the more limited your vocabulary, the more, yes, it's true. Hashem hears the cry of a child, but it's not as redeemed.
What does it mean when he says a moment of tzedakah with more depth, with the heartfelt feeling that I have no words?
Yeah. So now back to this point. So I kind of took us on a tangent.
Oh, okay.
So back to this point. So what he's saying is that even a cry itself, with a guttural cry without words, that itself can mask certain emotions and certain expressions that are behind the cry.
He says I internally scream out. Okay.
Yeah. So I remember someone was describing to me years ago that after his wife passed away, that like after he didn't say anything, and he was not able to talk about it. And then after he got home from the Levaya, he like closed the door on his own. And he just let out like a 10-minute scream, which is and that was like, there were so many words in that scream. It was a wordless scream, but he was describing that idea, and that was tzaka. It's there are words that you wish you could say that you cannot say the words because either the emotions are too high in the moment, or because sometimes words are are not available to you in the moment, but tzedakah can accomplish that. It's true. While the highest level of communication is refined speech, and a lower level would be the panic-stricken grief of slichos, where you kind of repeat words and it's very short and terse. Say like, "Oh, Anna," and Anna slachna. It's not really a whole sentence. It's just kind of a jumbled. Please, please, no, hurry now, right? It's a panic, says the Rav. But then the highest level of tefillah is when you have time to assemble it. But sometimes there is a modality for tzedakah. Sometimes there is an approach. There is something that I have to do. I'm in a panic. And the deepest prayer then might be wordless, as he's saying. So he's disagreeing with the Rav.
Like you said, what Moshe said with the shortest tefillah.
Yeah. God, please heal her, please. That's it. And that worked. It was effective. Now, if we tried it, I don't know if it'd be effective. Right? Rub-a-dub-dub, thanks for the grub, right? No, it doesn't work like that. Okay. Then we have Rega Shel Na'aka. So Bargasha Tsar, Na'aka is anguish, right? Is a groaning. Pain. So this is not just it's not the shout, right? This is the feeling of one's pain. Bargasha Tsar, when you feel your tsar, Oy kama koevlo. You're expressing, this hurts me very much. I'm talking about that pain, right? This really hurts. I'm not just calling out, but I'm articulating it that I'm in pain. Rega shorina, joy, shira, simcha, song, happiness, atsuma, right? This is the great moment when you've been waiting for something for years, and finally the deal closes and the money comes in, or finally the person finds that shidduch they've been waiting for, or a bad parsha and their life is over and they get the 5-year clean mark, and now they're no longer deemed in the territory of some illness, and they have a rega shel shira simcha tzuma al zeh shehu omed lifnei hamelech av rachman sheshomeh tefillah va'ozer b'itot tzara. You're the God who helped me, who helps me when I was in tzara, and now I'm reflecting on that with joy, and that's also, by the way, it's funny because if you're struggling with if one is struggling with an illness, they can express both the tzaka, the naka, the shava, bitzur, and the rina. You could say, I know that you're going to cure me. I know that there's that joy that will happen after this is over. Or even the ability. Someone told me recently that they were dealing with a problem they were having. And when they finally owned up to it, it was an addiction type of thing. They finally owned up to it. They felt so much relief. I said, was the problem resolved? And they said, no, but I was able to at least express it. And that itself brought me joy. Like it was like a song. I said, wonderful. Right? They were so happy. They got high again. No, they were, but it was it was a joy. And sometimes that expression is itself a mode of prayer, that even when you're in the crisis, the ability to feel joy, knowing that there's a solution. We talked about in the Sefer about knowing that you're going to the best doctor in the world, right? Knowing that someone says to you, there's this incurable disease and this is going around, you'll panic. But then someone says, but there is one person, one doctor, they live in the other end of the world, and they've figured it out, and they're curing people left and right. And all you gotta do is for COVID, you take a hair dryer and you put it in your throat for 10 minutes and COVID's gone. Remember that guy who came out with that rabbi? It was that idea. So, but you know that someone has a cure. So even knowing that someone has a cure is itself a joyous thing. They found a cure. Like, that's amazing. So then you're going to try to make an appointment. Now you get an appointment. Wow, an appointment with one doctor figured out the solution. And then you're going to have a consultation like that. Why is that so joyous? You haven't resolved your problem, but you know there's a solution out there. So knowing that God is the solution, that itself brings Rina. That was what he said in the Rega shel Pigia. Now, also you have a moment of reflection. Pigia is an encounter. Entreaty, I don't know how you translate that. Resoluteness. Hagashat akshanut she'ena ozev mafsik kiviyochol ad yirachmu min hashamayim. I am going to continue to reach out to God. I'm going to continue to bother Hashem, and I'm not going to stop until He has mercy on me from Shemayim. Remember Moshe Rabbeinu had the Medrash, he only davened 516 times. Hashem would have opened up the gates, he would have went into Eretz Yisrael, right? And yet he felt he had to stop. But the question is there a point in which we say, no, God cannot turn us down? Continue to read, because the machshava that Rav Pinkus developed was, if I continue to go to the door to door, and they say, no, sorry, I'm not going to give you. They throw me a shiny nickel, and I'm like, oh, okay, thank you very much. That's not going to help me. I can't buy a gumball with that. But then I go to the last door on the street. There's no more houses. and I still need $5,000. This is my last hope, right? Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my last hope. Final hope. My only hope. Thank you. So this is my last door to go to. And if I have nowhere else to go, so who do I go to? So at that point, I'm going to ask again and again and again, please, please, please. I get my foot in the door and I slam the door and I try again to push my way in. Please, just, I beg you, this is nowhere else to go. We turn to Hashem. There has to be a machshava. There is nowhere else to go. I have no family member. There's no chesed loans. Nothing else is going to get me through this other than Hashem. If you have that mentality, that's a pegia. That's why you keep asking and asking. Why do you stop asking God? Because you think ultimately, we don't stop asking God because we think it's hopeless, right? You think that, okay, my solution will come up. I did my job, I davened, and now I'm going to go speak to a doctor, and I'll get this loan, and I'll do this. I'll do all the other things I have to do, which is important, hishtadlus. But if you really believe the only hope you had was Hashem, you wouldn't stop. Why would you go elsewhere? If that was the only thing you had, right? You wouldn't do it. So again, there's a balance, hishtadlus and emunah. There is that calculus you have to make, but that God should be the last part of that hishtadlus also should be part of it. Right? So you daven, then you get the medicine, and then you daven, the medicine works. Right? Those are also part of it. Okay. Then there's a regashal kriya, and then there's a moment of kriya to call out behavana, behira, with clear understanding, shomed neged hashchina, that I'm staying before the divine presence. Medaber benochach. Nochach means baruch ata. How do I say a prayer? Blessed are you. I'm talking to Hashem, the King of all kings, right? Who was, is, and always will be. And I'm saying, you, hey, you, like, what's up? What's going on, right? You. So how do I, talk to God like that? That's benochach, but I can. I have a relationship with Hashem. Behiru talev, clarity, shomlo. I know He's listening to me. Kori lavis baruch shmo. Remember, you can transport wherever you are into a place where you have an encounter with God. Basher shehu zeh shebara v'himtzi hakol berov rachamav, that He created everything with His divine mercy. Ve'en gvul rachmanu to yisbarach, and the belief that there is no limit to what He can do for me. And remember, we talked about not stopping to ask, but then there's also the other side of it is, it's true that He might be my last hope, but he may have limited resources. But not only is He my last hope, but also He has unlimited resources. And there is nothing in the way of Hashem. Not a place where you are. Sometimes there are places you're davening, not a time in life, not a situation. So nothing stands before Hashem's will. Mega shel nipul b'hitbatlut, a moment of falling. Nipul means to fall, right? To bow, lower yourself. Hisbatlos. Hisbatlos means I'm going to put aside all my own notions of independent existence and greatness. Gava, arrogance. Hashem doesn't want to be in the same room with the Baal Gaiva. He wants nothing to do with the Baal Gaiva. He wants people who are humble. All of the salvation will be finished here. And if Hashem doesn't have mercy, there's nowhere else to go. Rega shel pilul, a moment of pilul, it's lashon tefillah, but pilul could mean two things. We said shnei perushim or argashas dveikus. Either it means feeling the dveikut, right, the closeness with God and kiruv, or avchana b'amitit kol hakdamot tefillah, or to understand the truth of all the introductions of prayer, shlitaso yisparach habilti ba'ila tachlit taluto b'akadosh baruch hu. All of the all purpose is dependent upon Hashem.
Yeah, or it's either it is a feeling of attachment and closeness,
right,
or it is a perception of the truth of all the prefaces to Tefillah, Hashem's unlimited control, my dependence on Hashem, and all the established principles.
Okay. V'chol hayesodot hamozdim sharach shav dibra leim, and all the foundational ideas we established until now, lavirim lefanav behirut, to bring for God with clarity. V'adait, certainty. Shkol dvarim heim kach pshuto k'mashmo, lo b'philosophia, lo b'regesh, b'alma, ela emes pshuta. This is not just a philosophy of maybe there's a God, of a feeling there's got to be a higher power, but like I have absolute certainty in who Hashem is. And then we have a few more. There's a regashal tachanunim. What are tachanunim? That's beseeching. Argashas emes gedola, feeling the truth. She'emes ein lo shum tvia lebaro. Truth has no claim.
I have no
claim to the only reason why I exist or anything exists, I don't have any rights. I don't deserve anything. It's not like he owes me, right? Magiali, but rather that it's all product of God's kindness. Everything I've been given. So when I say, well, why is this happening to me? Or why am I doing this? What do you mean? Where do we have a claim? We don't have a claim that we deserved something or that life cheated me out. That time that a lot of people have with religion, with talking to Hashem, is that they feel like they weren't given what they're supposed to be given. But this Tachanunim challenges that idea that there is a right to things that without Hashem, everything you have is a chesed from Hashem. Regel shel chilui, and then also take a moment chilui, emet, kol ela hanizkar, hem divrei pius, tainot gedola. This is all a way of appeasement and talking to Hashem, ta'anot, making claims, asalaman shemecha. But all of this is really done for your name. It's not because I'm not trying to butter Hashem up. Please, you're so powerful, you're so good, you're so kind. Do me a favor, throw me a salad. We're saying to Hashem, this is who you are. Be true to your name, which is you are the Ava Rachman. You are the Rachem Na'aleinu, even we don't deserve it. So what's the purpose of the first 3 paragraphs of Shemona Esrei? It's all about talking about the Gvura of Hashem, the great name of Hashem, the Kedusha of Hashem, and the Zchut Avot, the fact that he took care, that fact that he had the relationship with the Avos. All that is true. And if that is true, then here's the bakashos. I'm going to make the following requests. Because you are Rachum Chanun. That is who you are. Regel shel Amida. That's what chilui is. Chilui is to talk to God's qualities. Amida means to stand. It's to stand for a moment in fear and awe. To know that you're standing before God, mamash. To feel godol otzim, to feel the merit. How great is it that we can dive into Hashem? That your kindness is greater than life. The fact that I can have an audience with Hashem is greater than the actual request. He's adding a little bit to each one here. And then Regel shel Itur. Well, how to translate Itur again?
Over and over until it takes quality of muchness.
Lachzor al dvarim pam achar pam. Keep repeating it. Ajetofsim goven shel ribui, until it takes hold of a form of ribui, abundance. Rifa'eni Hashem ve'erapeh. Heal me, Hashem, and I will be healed. Rifa'eni Hashem ve'erapeh. Heal me, and I'll be healed. Kama v'kama pamim. The merit of repetition, which also harkens back to that idea of repeated prayers as well. So it's related. But one is predicated on the idea of it becoming the only thing, refuah, and the other time is about utter dependence on Hashem and on no other forces. You can also add to this the following thoughts that are proper. We spoke about earlier that we should tap into the name of God, that we should try to connect to the Tsar Shechina, the fact that the Shechina is in exile, and we tap into that pain, and we feel Hashem's pain. Remember that idea, that concept, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is in Galus? So we always thought, well, he's here because we're here, so he's here to rescue us. But the reality is that we are in Galus because the Shechina is in Galus, and therefore the whole world is upside down. So it's happened that pain. That all pain in the world, all disorder in the world is ultimately connected to the Shechina being in Galus. Even when something terrible happens, and when ice cream top falls off the cone. That tsar is connected to the greater tsar, the greater pain. And our job, as those who mourn the Mikdash, is to connect all disorder in the world to the ultimate chaos of Hashem not being on his throne. And so that's the Tzar Shechina. Tzar Tzilso Shirachem Hashem Gam Al Shar Yisrael Nimtzaim B'Tzar Doma Lezeh. And we have to move our tefillah mitzaref, to join our tefillah, that Hashem should have mercy on the rest of the Jewish people who are in Tzara. Achenu Kol Beit Yisrael. Should be a quality to my tefillah. Od ha'arot gavanim shonim ke'ela, in many different forms. Kol echad kefi yediasav sugyot ha'tefillah, and everything based on my knowledge of tefillah. Kefi ma shemotzi libo asher tefillah so v'hekef shalem binyan abonim mesechtet rabot. So you take all of these different expressions, and then you get what's called the complete prayer. Okay. And now we finish up the last part here. Okay, last 2 pages. Ulisium. And in conclusion, Hine calls Matarata Kuntras Isa La'ir al Sugim Gavanam Shanam Tefila. And we had the different forms of tefillah and different advices on how to achieve that success. Shava, Pegia, Itur, etc. But still, the Gemara Nida says Dafayin, Ma Yase Adam Bichakim, Yashir, Vihelo Banim Zcharim. Okay, this is wrong audience to quote that Chazal, but okay. What should we do? That we should be wise, we should be successful, have male children. Don Corleone, I bless you that your first child should be masculine. I once went to an Italian Italian minion in Sfas, I think it was, and there was someone had a baby, and they gave like a very long mishberach. It was a girl, and the mishberach was like 10 minutes long. It was all about how you should have a boy. Like it was like 10 minutes straight. I like the nusach was fantastic. I'm like, where do they write this thing?
Yeah.
But the point is, traditionally, it's viewed that way is because there are more mitzvahs associated with boys than girls, so that's why it's considered a merit. But it's not. I don't know. I think that having a daughter is probably better in the sense that it guarantees a continuation of Judaism. I think it's a little bit better. It depends if you're a broad thinking person or a particular thinking. You're thinking about.
It's a blessing that it's.
Yeah, but it's a blessing.
The one who see the fighting.
Yeah.
So back to the Gemara. The Gemara says, what should you do if you want to be wise? If you want all the blessings, to be wealthy, etc. You have to ask from the one who has all those things. If you want wealth, you have to ask the one who's holding on to the wealth. We'll add one thing. What should you do if you want to daven with proper kavanah? You put in all your effort that are in the books of Musar and work and worship. Many people do this, and they weren't successful. Ask mercy from the one who is holding on to my heart, right? So what do? You have to ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu to be able to make your tefillah successful. If you don't daven for success in davening, you cannot succeed in davening. That's the bottom line. So we talk about davening 4 different items. What about davening for a good tefillah? Like maybe before Rosh Hashanah, we should spend a whole day just talking about, I'm going to enter a season of tefillah. Let me be successful in prayer.
Doesn't the Chazan have that before?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And in fact, one of the things we do before bracha, before mitzvos, is we have this Kabbalistic thing we say, L'shem yichud richu. I think everybody worships this topic for Shavuos night is all about L'shem yichud. Is about when, because the Rav Rosovich was famously opposed to it. He said the bracha is the Shem Yichud. You don't need to say the Shem Yichud beforehand. To say halacha, it's things like a brisker. Like when I say Shem Hashem, I'm uniting that's the Yichud Hashem. So why would I say Shem Yichud before the bracha? But the Hasidim would say no, you say the Shem Yichud before bracha. Yeah, we do it for slichos, for different things. I like to do it before mitzvahs that are Kabbalistic, so I feel like it makes sense.
You are invited to come
To what?
before the.
Absolutely.
But yeah.
For
Absolutely.
Yes.
Oh,
So Yaseh Kol Shtadlus Aksuvus Sefer Musar V'Davi. And if you say, well, how can I do it? You have to ask God for help. You have to ask Hashem for help. Vim Kain. Now that's a Zikach. Kol Eser Lashonas Gavne Tefillah Shemanu. Take these items we've listed off and Chazal discussed. Yishtamish Bekulam Mishpach Tchinato. L'fnei Baro Kadesh Yiskel Tefillah B'Kavana. So you should have Kavana. Tzarech Mashal. As an example, Nachser. We already did this.
So he's
doing it again?
kind of.
Okay. Okay. So another example. Also often mamash and iska b'siftel. Kach kol echad yivro atzmo kirot einav lebo naskir sheish l'shonot b'shona. We'll answer the first 6 in the countries. The first 6 that we have here. The Chacham Yosef lekach hosif kain elchein.
This is about Kavana doing it with
Regel shel bitzur. Bakasha mitoch hagashat tzara. I have pain. Havana behira. How much is it tzara? How much does it hurt me? It's pal bepiv libo bal amo. Shehi tzara norav nogal chayav.
Pray with my mouth, although my heart is elsewhere.
Yeah. So how do you use these expressions to daven for prayer, for davening? So number one is, how could it be that I don't even have piv libo balimo, that my mouth and heart, right, are in two different places. Sfat chalakot, it says in Tehillim, Perikut Beis. Rega shel shava, mon shava bakasha histarit. Hysterical cry. Bezoch tochen l'kosh baruch shirachem alav. V'yigar b'satan ha'osek mimenu meitiv avodaso. Yell at the Satan who's trying to take away from the power of your prayer. Rabbi Yitzchak Berdichever had a famously beautiful voice, and he has to daven for the Amud on Yom Noraim by his share shul. So he's davening for the Amud, his father-in-law shul, and it was right before Ne'ilah. Time was running out, and they call him up, and he was reluctant. Finally, he stood up there, and he stands there for the longest time. He says nothing. No. And after like 10 minutes of telling him no, he turns to his father-in-law and says, he goes, "You think you're so wise? You think you're so why don't you do it yourself? Why you think you're so powerful? You know, right? You do it without me. You do it yourself." And he ran away from the bima. So they got someone else to replace him. Obviously, they said to him, "What in the world was going on?" He says, "Why were you so rude to your father?" He says, "What are you talking about? I wasn't talking to my father-in-law at all. He wasn't talking to me." "What are you talking to?" He says, "Well, right before I got up there, I knew I had a great voice." And the Satan said, "You know, I gave you a good voice. And everything you're going to do here right now, it's all me. It's all me." And I argue with him. I try to push the Satan out of there. So this is not about Yitzhar. It's about me. About encountering God. It's nothing to do with me. It's not my moment in the sun. And finally, I just lost it. I said, "You think you're so powerful? You think you're so talented? You do it yourself." And I ran off. So that's the story about. So there is a moment in which you have to realize that I have to push away those voices if I'm going to serve God. I have to get all the distraction. His bodus in Breslov. Regashal tzaka yoser amuka, deeper cry. Hargasha, feeling inside she'ein milim. I don't have the words to explain otzem bakasha, so to explain my. I don't even know how to articulate my needs. What's bothering you? You know, you ever someone sits down before you and talks about their problems, and they're rambling on. They're going this, and I hate this person. So what would you like to get out of that relationship? What do you want? What does the resolution look like for you? And they can't even say it. And so that person can't find the resolution. With Hashem, it's not true. Hashem, you can cry from a deeper place where you cannot express it. So we talked about words and heart not matching. Now we're talking about where your words don't match your heart because you lack the words. In the first scenario, you said the right words, but you didn't feel it. In this scenario, you feel it, but you don't have the right milim. And milim b'shis b'rot semet, b'gazot tzara salt feel so crime. Uchayel tarog al fikemayim, kenashot tarog l'dovka. Always feel like the ayal is prancing, cries by the water. So my soul cries out for it with tefillah. Rega shel na'aka, hargashat tsar, feeling the pain. Oy kamak shekoyvo. How does it hurt me? Kasher omed l'nei Hashem. I'm standing for God. Believe m'shotei b'chol kitzvot haaretz. And my heart is all over the place. I'm thinking about work. I'm thinking about the game later. I'm thinking about this. I'm thinking about my kids. Al ke'ev zeh Mashiach l'fanav yisparach. Right? Mashiach l'fanav yisparach. For this ke'ev, I'm talking before God. I'm spilling my words about the pain that I can't even be present. Rega Sharina, a moment of joy. Shira Simcha Tzumal Shehu Omed Lifnei HaMelech Avrach. Wow, I'm standing for God. He can do anything. Shomet Tefillah Messiah Levayim Litara L'Chatven Salev. He purifies the hearts. My heart's not focused, but I'm overjoyed because finally I'm in the place where God can take me and elevate me to a place of kavana. And lastly, Pegia, encountering Argashas Akshanas, that stubbornness, that repeated stubbornness. She'eno Ozlev, I will not leave. So in other words, if I'm having trouble davening, I'm going to say, let me be a little stubborn. I'm going to stand here until the words and the heart and they match, and the tefillah is connecting with Hashem. I'm not going to leave. I'm not leaving this shul till I connect. All the languages. Tfilaso al tfilaso. Tefillah on top of tefillah. Tefillah shleimut lahafik ratzon Hashem v'shmis parach yishma shel asinu v'kabel tachaninu b'zechus tefillah sarabim And that's how Hashem will hear our prayers. We cry out in the great, with the merit of Tefillah Harabim, Tefillah of the many. Amen. King Yitzon. And with that, finished a year plus of this Sefer. And I want to thank Shira, because Shira said we have to finish the Sefer. It's not just enough to start it. So, because we've started many books, I've started many. There are many things in this life I've started.
Thank you,
and not
Shira.
completed. So, and Shira also wanted to make this a little more special siyum. So thank you very much for all the food and everyone for participating. And God willing, as we go forward, we'll find another opportunity to learn more things. I'm thinking about Shabbos. I was thinking about integrating machshava of Shabbos and halacha into one. It's something that a little more bold. It could go in two directions. You could go back and forth, or you could try to thematically relate each one, like talk about malachos and then talk about Shabbos itself, and then talk about the spiritual component of it. So I have to give some thought, but God willing, we will reconvene after Shavuos. Right.
Abigail, I want to say something. About David, it's not like he's coming to us to ask, do this for me, do this for me.